What is up, everybody? We're back with another rankings video, looking at our favorite position, the tight end position. As always, I'm joined by my father, Jeff. How's it going on this Thursday, June 15th?
83 is the number.
Until kickoff?
83 days, that's correct.
83 days. Yeah, we're getting closer. We're in that dead period. June 15th, not much is happening. Although, you got Dalvin Cook out there. You got DeAndre Hopkins, Fournette, Zeke Elliott, Kareem Hunt. So there's some stuff, I guess, going on. But we got everyone looking good in shorts and T-shirts, right? That's kind of what this is.
I'll be bummed if Hopkins signs with the Patriots.
Yeah, it's like the Patriots and the Titans. It's kind of like two teams where I'm just like, Like, I'm not very excited about that, but
he's just looking for money. Let's face it. Come on.
Seems like it. But yeah, we're talking tight ends today for the 2023 season. This is not Dynasty. This is just for the 2023 season. Half PPR, of course. We're looking at 24 tight ends, so a lot of guys that maybe won't be relevant. Unless you're playing like a 2 tight end league that kind of covers your bases. I would think it seems like most people, I'd say like if you play in a 12-team league, 8 of the 12 teams are going to probably roster like 2 tight ends, maybe a little less. But Dad, what's your overall ideal strategy, I guess, for drafting tight ends? I know you kind of have to play the board a little bit, how it falls to you. But do you like to take one of the top guys? Do you like to get one of the mid-tier guys? Or do you want to wait until the end and throw a couple darts on a couple
used to, when I first started fantasy, years ago, I used to think a good tight end, drafting a good tight end. I didn't have a problem drafting a good tight end because I considered it like a good wide receiver. So, and there's more better, let's say, middle of the road wide receivers than there are middle of the road tight ends. Okay. So I always kind of went kind of early on a tight end and tried to get one of the better ones and stuff like that. And, and I still kind of feel that way, but sometimes I look, you look at the stats and you think, geez, if I didn't get Kelsey, Andrews, or maybe even Kittle and these other guys, you need to have a good list of 5, 6, 7 people that you're okay in the middle rounds getting these guys. And that means you need to go back and look at what their production was last year. And, some of these guys, Freiermuth, Evan Ingram. I don't know if Pitts is in there. Gobert, those guys. Look at their production, and the numbers are going to give you. A lot of these guys are close together. And, depends on how you value them. I just told you what my theory is. I don't mind going for, let's face it, Kelsey is one of the best tight ends in the NFL. I guess you could call him a GOAT. Mark Andrews is pretty damn good when Lamar Jackson's playing. Hawkinson has got a new life in Minnesota, so...
Yeah, well, we'll get to all those guys.
Yeah.
We'll talk about them.
I'm kind of spilling the beans a little early, but
you're fine. It's tough. I mean, if I'm not able to get one of the top 2 or 3 guys, it's kind of like I don't even want to. I don't want to take one of the mid-tier guys. Like we'll talk about it, but like it's tough. I'd rather get a Kelsey or an Andrews in round 1 or 2 than pick up like a Waller in like round 4 or something like that. So I kind of like to just take a couple dart throws on a couple late round guys, and hopefully I hit on those. So, but we're gonna get into it. Stop blabbing.
And don't forget this. Just in April, the NFL draft. I think there were 6 tight ends taken. So there's some fresh guys out there. And usually there's only a couple each year. Whether they're going to hit this year or be something fantasy-wise, we don't know. But there's some guys up and coming, that's for sure.
Yeah, you mean 6 taken in the first couple rounds? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, well, six tight ends. I don't know. I can't remember. Let's say in the top 3 rounds, 3 or 4 rounds, but there was.
Yeah, I think there was more than 6. I think there was 5 in the first 2 rounds, maybe 6.
Yeah,
but
they're there.
Yeah,
yeah,
they're there. So, anyways, we'll get into our top 24. Couple guys that I had. One guy that I had on my list that you didn't add that doesn't make our top 24 is Hunter Henry. So just quickly talk about him. I mean, I understand not having him in the top 24 with Mike Gesicki having gone to New England. But I mean, he's a pretty consistent tight end in terms of he's going to give you 50, 60 catches, 600 yards. And then you hope for a big touchdown a year, like in 2021 when he had 9 touchdowns. But yeah, you can kind of bank on all right, 50 catches, 600 yards for Hunter Henry. We'll see this year with Gesicki. And then a guy that you had on your list, Juwan Johnson from New Orleans Saints. You want to say something small about him before we get into the top 24?
Yeah, I just think he's could with Derek Carr as a quarterback, Carr and Waller were a thing with the Raiders. So, Carr, and there's not a, other than Chris Olave, the wide receiver room in New Orleans is a little unknown. I know, we've been waiting 3 years for Michael Thomas to come back, but so that's, maybe Juwan Johnson, maybe he's going to show up. Maybe they're going to give him a chance. So,
yeah. I mean, and he's a name we know because he had some weeks last year that a big week. He was tight end 11 last year, which
wow, I didn't know that.
A lot of people are not going to know that, but that's because he had a couple big weeks. He had a 20-point week. He had 4 weeks where he had 11, 13, 12, and then 20. So that's basically good enough to get you into top 12 tight ends if you have 4 weeks, 4 double-digit weeks. Oh, he had a 17-point week too. So yeah, he caught some touchdowns. So it's not a bad shot there with.
They also have a backup though, Foster Moreau. So
and he has a connection with Carr.
Yeah,
and Taysom Hill's there,
So that's right. Yeah.
But our number 24 coming in, Dad, I had him on my list, and I was surprised you didn't because he's a guy that we have a little bit of a inside joke with. But Hayden Hurst coming in at 24, he's now on the Carolina Panthers. I mean, he's slightly intriguing just because him being on Carolina now it's kind of the only reason I put him in the top 24. I think it's just maybe slightly intriguing of okay, Carolina doesn't have this super developed, deep receiving core, and a rookie quarterback could kind of rely on their tight end a little bit, as a safety blanket. So I think it maybe is a sneaky little play of throw a late round, last pick of your fantasy drafts, throw a dart at him and hold him the first couple weeks, see what happens. But yeah, I mean, anything, Dad, about Hayden Hurst? There's not much to say about Hayden Hurst.
I don't mind I think Hayden Hurst is a good tight end. If he's my primary tight end, I don't feel like I'm going to be doing too well this year. But Carolina, does not have a great receiving room. Probably even worse than New Orleans, who we were just talking about. And and Hayden Hurst can catch the ball. So, he's so we'll just have to see what happens. And we got a rookie quarterback, so that's always a slight concern. But
you don't have to spend too much time on Hayden Hurst. So
yeah.
Noah Fant, Dad, for you, he comes in at 23rd on our list. You had him. You had him ranked. I didn't. What do you want to say about Noah Fant?
Yeah, Noah
Fant. Is there any chance he could get into the top 12 or 15 guy?
Yeah, Noah Fant, the last 3 years, he's had anywhere from 68 receptions to 50 receptions last year. So last year was kind of a low watermark for him. The guy's capable. He doesn't appear to get a lot of red zone looks. His high for touchdowns is 4. So, they got 3 very good wide receivers in Seattle. So he definitely could be playing second fiddle to just about everybody there. So, but I still consider him kind of worthy. If he was my tight end too, I think I'd be okay with that.
Yeah, he's kind of just a guy that's, I think people had a pretty high expectations for him because he's a very athletic tight end, and so people were thinking he is only 25 years old. He's still pretty young. Like he was a first round pick. That's one of the reasons why people were high on him. And he's just super athletic out of Iowa. He's never really. He's a solid tight end. Like he's a good solid tight end for your team, your NFL team. But in terms of fantasy, like he's had a couple of top 12 years. 2020, 2021, he was top 12 both years. But he's not a difference maker at the tight end position. So he'll probably give you, 600 yards. And it's just now you got Jackson Smith and Jigba there. I think the offense is just really going to go through those 3, Metcalf, Lockett, and JSN. So I don't know how much is going to be left over for the tight ends. But moving on, Trey McBride for the Arizona Cardinals coming in. He was a rookie last year, a second-round pick, I believe, 55th overall. I think it was like him and Greg Dulcich that were kind of talked about as potentially the best tight ends in that draft. McBride didn't really play much the first 9 weeks of the season. I forget if he was hurt or just kind of inactive and not playing. And then Zach Ertz goes down with an injury and a major injury. And then, Trey McBride had a couple good games at the end of the year. 4-catch, 55-yard game, 7-catch, 78 yards and a touchdown, 3 for 41, which again, like you'll kind of take for a tight end sometimes, especially at PPR. I guess his path, what we want to talk about is like, what's their path to being kind of relevant? And his path is he's on Arizona. They lost Hopkins. Zach Ertz, I don't know. I haven't heard much about him, but it's hard to think, at his age, coming off a major knee injury, he's going to be much there.
And he's going to be super relevant, yeah.
And so, you get Trey McBride, and it's like, okay, they have Marquise Brown, Rondale Moore, and that's it, really. So, like, he could be one of the focal points of the offense, and they're going to be in a kind of a rebuild mode, I think, the Cardinals. So, that, you want to get your young guys some shots. So, anything you want to say about Trey McBride, Dan?
No, I mean, that pretty much sums it up. This is, ranking him as 22, this is an assumption that he's going to take another step, where he fits in the Cardinal offense. You outline that, you highlighted that stuff. So we'll see if he can get to the 60 catch, 600 yard level, which would make him kind of worthy as a tight end number 2 or something.
Yeah. Agreed there. Coming in at 21st overall, Sam LaPorta, the rookie for the Detroit Lions. Iowa, right? He went to Iowa.
Iowa.
Another Iowa tight end.
Early second rounder.
Interesting. Did they trade up for him? I forget.
No, this is the no, they did not. But this was the Lions' second round draft. No, wait a second. I'm sorry.
Yeah, he was their second round pick.
Yeah, second round.
I was trying to remember. I was trying to remember if they traded up for him. I know they took him over Michael Mayer. They took him. I think Michael Mayer went the next pick to the Raiders, and that was a little shocking because I think a lot of people had Kincaid and Mayer as like 1-2. So they obviously think pretty highly of Sam LaPorta.
Was he their first tight end? I can't remember now.
No, Kincaid was in the first round.
Yeah, that's right. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. So Kincaid went in the first round, and then LaPorta, and then Mayer. But yeah, it's just people were a little surprised that that he went over Michael Mayer. So, Dad, what are you expecting from LaPorta? Do you think he can? Rookie tight ends don't have a good track record of really doing anything. So
no, they don't. And grew up as a Lions fan, so I've been in football hell for most of my life regarding the Lions, but so a lot of I've been following the mini camps and stuff like that, and the OTAs and like football in underwear. They say Sam LaPorta looks the part and everything else, but there's kind of a lot of mouths to feed in Detroit. This is kind of weird saying that. You got Amon-Ra St. Brown, 100 receptions. Jamar Gibbs, how's he going to fit in? David Montgomery, Jameson Williams. So if Sam LaPorta is, the next coming of George Kittle, who's another Iowa tight end, then we'll see it. We'll obviously see it. But, Kittle was a 5th rounder. So LaPorta, how he's going to fit into the Detroit offense, is a TBD. So this is slightly a reach for putting him there. Again, if he's a wide receiver, if he's your tight end 2 and he's sitting on your roster or something like that, you might have to be a little patient, but hopefully we'll see something good. I mean, all his highlights from Iowa, it looks marvelous, but that's college, so.
Yeah, it's just going to be hard for me to buy into a rookie tight end to rely on. I don't know. It's going to be, they just don't really pan out, I know we've had a couple, but he's a guy that maybe keep an eye on for the second half of the season if he starts doing something. So, number 20, Dawson Knox. Tough guy to rank with them taking Dalton Kincaid. I do think Kincaid's going to play a little bit more like a slot receiver, and Knox is going to be more of a tight end. But to me, I'm just not taking Dawson Knox. I don't know how you feel, Dad. The guy's had one good, relevant fantasy year, and that's basically because he caught 9 touchdowns. He's going to have to do that to be relevant again. I can see him putting up similar stats as last year of 48 catches, 500 yards. But if you don't get 10 touchdowns, that doesn't do anything. So, I don't want the second tight end.
But if he's your tight end 2.
Yeah, I just don't see the upside, I guess. I'd rather just throw Sam LaPorta as my tight end 2 and see if there's more upside than just Dawson Knox is one of those guys you need a touchdown each week to be relevant, in my opinion, and you just can't rely on those guys.
Yeah, he was slightly off the mark in touchdowns last year. He had 6. So, I mean, again, as I have said on the previous tight ends, if he's my number 2 sitting there, if he's my number 1, I'm not overly thrilled. I don't know what his points are per week, but geez, I always think if I can get double-digit points out of a tight end, unless I got Kelsey or something like that, one of the top tight ends. If I got double-digit points on, I'm talking about a weekly score, and I'm feeling pretty good. So, some of these guys' numbers, 50, 60 catches, 500-600 yards. It's not great.
I mean, in half PPR, which is what we're focusing on, I'd be very shocked if you're going to get more than 4 guys that are going to average double digit. Last year, there were 4 guys that averaged double digit points in half PPR. 2021, there were 3 guys that averaged double digit points. 2020, there were 3 guys that averaged double. So it's not much more than 3 or 4 guys. So he's not going to do that. Last year he was tight end 14. Missing a couple games. He had 5 double-digit point games, which is a little better than I thought. But now with Kincaid there, it's just kind of like he's the kind of the tight end 2. I don't want to have a second. I don't want to have a tight end 2 on my team. Essentially, like tight ends are already bad enough. So I'm staying away from Knox. But I mean, if there's some kind of injury to Kincaid or something, then maybe there's value there. But the next guy on our list is Irv Smith Jr. on the Bengals. He was a guy I was talking about pre-NFL draft of like throw him on your dynasty rosters because, he could be something this year because now he's the starting tight end for the Bengals and you're on a good offense. And I think obviously you got Jamar Chase there, you got T. Higgins. You even have Tyler Boyd. You're probably the 4th option on the Bengals, maybe even the 5th. But if you just look at Bengals players, tight ends, the last couple years, they're going to get you 500-ish yards with 50 catches probably. And you're hoping for just like an abnormally big touchdown week or season. So Irv Smith, always been a talented guy, just could never stay healthy. If he can stay healthy, we'll see. He's to me, if I'm coming down to my end of my draft, I'm taking a backup tight end and I see Dawson Knox and Irv Smith, I'm taking Irv Smith because there's a little more potential there with being on a really good offense like the Bengals and not being a backup, the tight end too. So what do you think about Irv Smith Jr. then?
Yeah, a lot of hype on this guy when he came into the NFL with the Vikings, and I think he missed a whole year, like in 2021. His other years, he's just kind of been a regular guy. His stats weren't overly great, maybe 30 catches and stuff like that. He's from Alabama, and you'd think. It just kind of tells you who he was when the Vikings went out and traded for Hawkinson last year. And Hawkinson went in and filled that pass-catching tight end role, as we thought. So Irv Smith now is with the Bengals. Now he's on a hell of a team, hell of an offensive team, hell of a passing game. But how's he going to fit in? We'll have to see. Is he going to be like, remember a couple years ago, CJ, was his name Uzama? Uzama. And then last year it was Hayden Hurst. Yeah, if he catches 50 balls and 500 yards, you can consider it a good year. But we'll see. He hasn't reached those numbers. But maybe a tight end too, if you're lucky.
Yeah, and you can get the odd week where, he does a little bit more or something. But yeah, the Bengals tight ends under Burrow and Chase and Higgins haven't had more than 500 yards and like 50 catches. Again, you're kind of hoping for like maybe a 10 touchdown kind of out of nowhere type of year. So, but moving on, Mike Gesicki now on the New England Patriots. I think he's a little intriguing of a player, like a guy that maybe I want to take a shot on. We know New England's history with tight ends, with Gronkowski, Aaron Hernandez, even Hunter Henry. As with them, he's obviously Hunter Henry's still there, but Gesicki's interesting. He's had 2 back-to-back years where he put up over 700 yards with Miami in 2020 and 2021, which is really good for a tight end. Almost 800 yards in 2021 with 73 catches. He's essentially like a slot receiver. He never really plays the tight end spot, like inline tight end. So I kind of think of him as like, can he be like a poor man's like New England Patriots slot receiver? And you just think about their team, like who do they really have there? I know they have Juju Smith-Schuster. They got a couple other receivers there that no one really scares me. It's like, okay, like I can see a path for Gesicki being a relevant tight end once again. He's shown he can. So do you see a little bit of upside here with Gesicki, Dad?
Yeah, I don't know. I get a little worried about New England, and it's kind of I think of the running back situation in New England where you don't know what the hell's going on, and you think Gesicki and Hunter Henry, who you have a 50-50 choice on who. They're both very adequate tight ends who have proven themselves with other teams, and Hunter Henry had double-digit touchdowns a couple years ago. I'd be nervous,
For sure.
I personally probably will avoid these guys, the New England tight end situation. It'll be good for the team, but for fantasy purposes, I don't know. It's just to me, it's a little lukewarm. So I'm not dipping my toe into that lukewarm water unless it's boiling hot.
Yeah, I guess just having seen Gesicki kind of be like a volume, getting over 70 catches for a tight end I assume there's not many guys that are doing that.
That was before. I was in Miami before. What's his face showed up?
Yeah, I mean before the current coaching staff and Tyreek Hill and all of that. So, but I mean, you look at New England and they don't have any receivers like Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. So, I mean, he could potentially be a focal point for them. Dalton Kincaid's coming in at 17, pretty high for a rookie, but everyone's super excited about him. Buffalo traded up for him, took him in the first round. So any first round tight end is going to get us excited. They're already talking about he's going to be maybe the number 2 option behind Stephon Diggs, kind of the slot receiver. So there's definitely a path for him. I mean, he's a perfect guy I'm taking. I think people are going to overdraft him a bit, which I'm not going to because, again, he's still a rookie tight end. And you can't expect him to just come out and put up like Kelsey numbers. But, if he is there in the later half of the draft and I need a second tight end, he's the perfect guy I'm taking. Him, Sam LaPorta, these young rookies who do have a path to being, a focal point in the offense. But, I mean, do you expect Kincaid to let's think of I'll give you Evan Ingram, his rookie year stats. Evan Ingram, another first round draft pick. His rookie year, he had 64 catches, 722 yards, 6 touchdowns. Do you think over or under for Kincaid for that?
Under.
Line there?
Under, so you got to be careful. It's like Christmas time and you get a new toy. And the new toy you like playing with for a few days. Then you go back to your old reliable stuff. So, Kincaid, I'm sure he's going to have a great career and all this other stuff. If he's sitting there, like you said, I think you just said, in the latter part of the draft and of your redraft league. So, take him.
Mm-hmm.
And he could produce. The Buffalo Bills, they have a very active passing offense. So they're looking for somebody else. Everybody thought it was going to be Gabe Davis, and it kind of wasn't. So they're definitely looking for another guy. Just got to be patient. It's not going to come out in September and light it up.
Yeah, probably not. But he was kind of like, everyone talked about him like in terms of receiving tight ends, like he was the most polished. So he could make a difference for sure. But yeah, I just think people are going to come in and really overdraft him. So kind of like the next guy that I'm probably a lot lower on than most people. I mean, I still ranked him 16th. I think you had him 13th. It's Greg Dulcich for the Broncos. And, coming into his second year, I have a theory that people think a little bit more highly of him for a couple reasons. One, when he first, he missed the first 5 weeks, I think due to an injury. He didn't play in the first 5 weeks of the season. And then he came on and he made a couple big plays. And at that point in the year, it was kind of like the Broncos offense was so anemic and hard to watch, where it's like, oh my God, this guy came in and made a big play. And I think it was like overblown a little bit. It was like, oh my God, the Broncos did something, blah, blah, blah. And it was Greg Dulcich. He had a couple good games in there, 87 yards, a couple 80-yard games, which were really good, a couple touchdowns. But I don't know. I'm not buying into it that he's going to take a next step and be like, I think he's going to be a solid tight end, but I don't expect much more than again, 50, 60 catches, 600 yards.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not crowning this guy, the next coming of, a superior tight end. I think I don't even think he's a true tight end. He's kind of one of the slot guys or, guy on the outside and stuff like that. So I just don't, I don't see it yet. So you're right. He did have a couple games. I see 1, 2, 3 games that he did play out of 10. Sorry, 1, 2, 3, 4 games out of 10 that he had 9 targets, more than nine targets. So
that's really good.
Yeah, that's not too bad. So we'll have to.
Yeah, and the games he did play in. He was from week 6 to 16. He was tight end 10, but he averaged 7 points a game. So that's not a huge difference maker there. And it's basically 2-3 big games. So I get it. I'm not saying he shouldn't be drafted. He probably should be, but just kind of temper your expectations. Don't overdraft. He shouldn't be, if anywhere near. He should be going in double-digit rounds, I guess is what I'm trying to say. If you're taking him in the top 9 rounds because you expect him to take this huge jump, I don't see it. And we've never seen it. Have we ever seen Russell Wilson support a fantasy tight end?
No.
Not saying that that can't happen. It can, but we've also never seen it. So 3 more guys we're getting into in this video, and 3 guys that I am really intrigued by. Kind of I haven't been very excited about any guy that we've talked about until now. We're in our top 15. I'm starting to get a little excited at guys that maybe I could take a late round flyer on. Number 15 is Tyler Higbee. And I think he's very intriguing this year because that team has no one besides Cooper Kupp. And so he's one of the few tight ends when you when you look for tight ends, you want them to either be the first or second option. If they're not one of the top 2 options on the team, they're probably not going to do much for you in fantasy. They kind of have to be one of the top 2 guys. I mean, if you just look at the guys that finished near the top last year, of course, Kelsey, he's the main option in Kansas City. TJ Hawkinson was the number 2 guy for the Vikings and probably for the Lions when he was on the Lions. Kittle, yeah, a little different there. He had a big touchdown surge, but he kind of was the number 2 option there for Purdy. Mark Andrews is like the number 1 guy. Evan Ingram was maybe, number 2 guy, number 3 guy there. But, these guys that are finishing at the top are usually the number 1 or number 2 target. And yeah, Tyler Higbee, he had 72 catches last year, 620 yards, only 3 touchdowns. But, I mean, you like to see that 72 catch number. That was without Stafford most of the year. He was tight end 9 last year. I can see him being the second option for the Rams. I can see him catching another 70 passes this year. So he's intriguing to me as a late round flyer. What do you think about Higbee, Dad?
I like Higbee, and he's been with the Rams forever. What are we talking about? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years. So he plays most of the games. Last year he caught 72 passes. The year before 61. So he's a little light in touchdowns, in the red zone. He's a big body guy, he's 6'6", so over 250. The Rams wide receiver core, like Mike said, is unproven. All we got is Cooper Kupp, maybe Vance or what's his name, Reynolds, Josh Reynolds, no, Vance Joseph, no shit.
Tutu Atwell and Van Jefferson.
Yeah, who the other guy is too.
Van Jefferson.
Yes, that's the guy. Sorry. But Higbee, there's enough room for Higbee to catch 60, 70 passes and be top 12 tight end, let's say.
Yeah.
So I like Tyler Higbee.
Yeah, and if you just kind of look at 2021, where he played in 15 games, and that Rams offense was healthy all year with Stafford, with Cooper Kupp, with Robert Woods, with Odell Beckham when he came in. He still caught 60 passes that year. So I think that's kind of like the minimum for Higbee if Stafford stays healthy. It's like 60 catches. And if he is kind of, again, the number 2 guy, which I think there's a really good chance that he is the number 2 most targeted guy, that could bump up to 70, 75 catches. So I like Higbee, just like I like the next guy, Gerald Everett, coming in. Basically he's on the Chargers. That's kind of a big reason why. You can kind of guarantee for the Chargers, their tight end's going to get 50 to 60 catches, 500 to 600 yards. And again, you're kind of hoping for maybe a little bit more if guys get hurt, or a little bit more on the touchdown side. It is intriguing that Kellen Moore is coming over, and he's kind of always had tight ends as a focal point in his offenses with Dallas, and like Dalton Schultz, and even I think Jason Witten there at the end. So yeah, Gerald Everett, Dad, do you kind of expect similar to last year, 60 catches, 600 yards, and hopefully like 8 touchdowns?
Yeah, I like Gerald Everett, just like Higbee. So Gerald Everett had 87 targets last year with the Chargers. That's a pretty good amount. He caught almost 60 passes, so hopefully that can maybe slightly tick up a little bit. Chargers have good wide receivers, but You know, I don't have a problem having Gerald Everett as my tight end.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, again, like if you take the strategy of, okay, I'm just gonna wait on tight end. I'm not gonna reach for like, it's just tough to like take a guy, I don't know, like a Pat Fryermuth in like the 5th round or something. If you have to take him there, it's tough because like the difference between him and Everett are probably not going to be too much in terms of points per game or something. So like he's a perfect guy. Like, all right, I'm going to take Gerald Everett and I'm going to take Higbee and I'm just going to kind of play the hot hand each week or who has the better matchup. And that could be a very good strategy if you don't get one of the top guys. I mean, if you look at Gerald Everett last year, first 5 weeks or so, he had a 13-point, 10-point, 15-point game. So he was putting up some numbers for sure. And then maybe my favorite guy, Chig Okonkwo from the Tennessee Titans. Again, he was another one of those athletic tight ends, I think coming out of Maryland. It was just like, yeah, this guy has a lot of good traits. And it kind of developed over the year. I mean, his counting stats are not very impressive, but he was a rookie tight end, so that's kind of impressive. Only 32 catches, 450 yards, 3 touchdowns. But there's a couple underlying stats that are very intriguing about him. And the biggest one is yards per route run. Again, this is a big for receiving stats. This is, you look at the top fantasy receivers, the top guys in yards per route run, they correlate. You look at the tight ends last year. Travis Kelce was number 2. Mark Andrews, number 3. George Kittle, number 4. Dallas Goedert, 5. Hawkinson, 6. Pitts, 7. Fryermuth, 8. All those guys are big boy tight end names. Number 1 out of all those guys was Chig Okonkwo. Very low sample size, again, only 32 catches. And there's that in there.
And the Tennessee wide receiver core is not something to stand up and shout about. So this guy should get some opportunities. If you look at his game log from last year, and you look in the beginning of the season, all the way up until November, and you go, yeah, caught 1 pass, caught 0 passes, caught 1 pass, caught 3 passes. And then second half of the year, he started getting some targets and he started to produce a little bit. So that's what we've seen with rookies, rookies start showing up in November. They start figuring it out, and they start get integrated into offenses, and they start getting more touches and stuff like that. So that's what we see with this guy right here.
Yep. And you already mentioned it about the offense not being so great in terms of the receivers. And yeah, when he kind of started taking off around week 9, he was tight end 10 during that time. So,
wow.
Again, that's not. Again, he was only averaging 6.8 points. Like, that's how bad the tight end position is. But there's stuff there. Like, you can see it. And so, yeah, he could be a big part of that offense, I believe. So that's our 24 to 13. Not a lot of great guys there. It obviously gets better in the top 12 guys that you probably know. So we'll be back with that pretty soon. Just a quick update. I think we are at 208 subscribers now. So I think our goal is 250 by the time training camp start at end of July, 3rd week of July. So we'll see. Our previous goal was 200 by June 15th. Today's June 15th. We're at 208, so we beat that. So we'll see how we do in our next one. Dad, any last words?
No, and these guys that we went through, tight ends, basically, we just say tight end 2s, okay? And is anybody going to turn into a tight end 1? Absolutely. Somebody in this list. And, you know, do your own homework before your draft. You know, before your draft, whenever it's going to be in August or September or something. Do your own homework. Figure out on your own. You know, target a few guys. You know, get a little notepad and say, these are the guys that I wouldn't mind taking in the 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th round and stuff like that. So that's what we're trying to tell you here.
Yeah. And throw some darts on some guys. So, but yeah, we'll finish it up there. Like the video and subscribe, and we'll be back soon.